Hello, dear colleagues. This is a video support for your teaching, right, from Stanford Evolution. My name is Cecilia Gabriela, and we are going to be sharing some tips for you to improve your teaching through this year, all right? In this video, the agenda is that we are going to discuss what hybrid learning is. Then we are going to talk about tips for hybrid lessons, what to take into consideration, and some further reading suggestions for you to continue developing professionally. Now, regarding what hybrid learning is, I have this definition here that says hybrid learning combines face-to-face and online teaching into one cohesive experience. This is really important because this does not mean that you need to prepare two different lesson plans for your learners, right? You have some learners in the classroom, other learners online, and you should be sharing the same lesson plan because you have one syllabus to complete, right? So be careful. You do not design two different courses to be carried out at the same time. Then, regarding how the remote learners are going to participate in the classroom, it's important you check that the remote students can participate meaningfully in what is happening and vice versa. So you have to create this two-way, interaction between the learners, between the ones who are in the classroom and the ones who are online. We have to create this sense that they are all part of the same teaching situation. Another good thing to bear in mind is that my advice is for you to start with a background design process. Begin with the end in mind. You have clear where you want your students to be by the end of the lesson or by the end of the week or by the end of the course, and then start planning how to reach that goal, right, from where you are today. So you go planning forward then. But it's important to have the end in mind. The backward design provides you with this cycle of activities, this sequence of in the progression of the planning that takes you right to a quite certain point that the learners have already grasped and developed as you planned. So, for example, in this case, what is suggests here, the backward design says identify the desired results. Now, to be able to identify the desired results, you need to have done a careful needs analysis from what your learners actually need so they can move forward, right? Then determine the assessment evidence. How will you know that your learners are making progress, right? And then plan learning experiences and instruction that will facilitate the learning of your learners. Now, consider your assignments, right? Can your assignments be reasonably completed in either modality? When you're planning your lesson, are you taking into consideration that some students are going to be in the classroom and others are not? How well designed are those activities for those two worlds to meet, right? And carry on working together. Another thing to bear in mind, I look at this picture here, is the limitations or challenges you might encounter in leading in person and remote students simultaneously. And one thing is social distancing in the classroom. That is quite challenging if you want our students to work together. How can we do it if we have to give them apart? And then how can we bring those who are online into our teaching situation in the classroom? So be creative here, right? Because you need creativity to put these two words together. We're going to see this more in detail in a second video, right? Now, some other ideas that you have to bear in mind. Do all students have the same access to a device, to the internet? How will the students learning them remotely receive the instructions, right? There are different possibilities for you to send the instructions beforehand, give the instructions at the same time that you're giving instructions to the in-person students. Think about that. How can students in person interact with the remote students and vice versa, right? Then this is another important thing. We are full of apps and tools online to work with the learners remotely and in person, but they are not all necessary in your classroom every day. So you need to have a deep knowledge of what is happening, what are the tools available, and how to make them useful for your teaching and for their learning. Now, what can students do asynchronously in both environments? What are the assignments? What are the tasks you're going to ask your students to do in order to keep on learning after the class has finished? Because they need to continue being in touch with the language. So what have you thought about this, right? What are your homework for these learners? And be careful, try to design homework that they don't need to be, again, working with a screen. And then, are you prepared for the unexpected? I mean, things will happen, right? So when you plan your lesson, think carefully what might happen, what can be, right, an unexpected event that might change what you have planned already. We can, in a way, anticipate some problems, right? Others we cannot. But if we can anticipate because we are planning thoroughly, that's great. And how we're going to assess their knowledge. So we need to document our teaching, that is planning our lessons carefully, right, and thoroughly. Then we are going to be documenting the students' learning, how they're going to make those documents, what documents we need from them in order to have that information, right? So we are going to collect the data and try to figure out what is happening with this learning, right? This learner's learning. Give and receive feedback from the learners, right? We need to give them feedback and we need to receive feedback so we can adjust our teaching. And all this will end up in formative assessment, where we are going to assess the process of learning they are making. And therefore, we will be ready to design new activities, right, to facilitate and to help them continue growing. All right. Now, in the next video, we are going to see how to make those tips possible for early years, lower primary, upper primary, and lower secondary. And so we can adjust this to the different situations we are in. All right? See you in the next video.